how the K contents you know uh, are right where they are right now, how it became to be where they are. So yes, let me introduce myself a little bit. So actually, yeah, the cross pictures. I've been with cross pictures for about 7 years so far, almost eight. And before then, I was at CJ Entertainment. CJ Entertainment is the one of the biggest media company in Korea. It's famous for, yeah, Parasite is also something that they produced. It's a movie studio, it's a production house and everything. So I worked there for another 8 years, and before that, I was producing films for different companies. But interestingly, I was also a startup because when I was because I grew up in the States, so I studied there, I grew up there, and my first business there was in New York. I formed a commercial TV commercial production house and also did some line producing service for the Korean films, Korean TV commercials, Japanese films, Japanese TV commercials. They come over to New York. They shoot it, and I was providing the production services. So that's where I started as my own business to break in the industry. And then I came back to Korea to become a film producer, uh, and so far, yeah, I've been producing about 25 films and series in Korea. So some of the projects I would like to introduce you is, for example, my specialty has been uh, producing content for outside Korea, which means I'm a producer who works in Korea, but mainly my job was to produce uh, films for uh, outside Korea, meaning in English for US market, Japanese for Japanese market, in Chinese for Chinese market. So my expertise has been producing contents based on something from Korea in Japan, which is close to Korea, and produce local contents outside Korea, including the English language projects. So, for example, the one that I'm producing right now, as we speak, I'm here sitting in India, Chennai, because we're making a Tamil series based on a Korean webtoon, which is called "We Are So Over or Not." So right now, we just finished 3 days of shooting, and we're in the middle of the production. And it's became the first adaptation of a Korean webtoon in India. And we're doing this for Geo Hotstar platform, as many of you know, especially in India, as a web series in Tamil language. For your information, Tamil language is one of the Indian languages, including Hindi, Malayalam, uh, Telugu, and it's one of the biggest market share in South, and that's where we are. So that's kind of the job, yeah, that I've been holding. Knuckle Girl was also an adaptation of a Korean webtoon, which we turned that into a Japanese film for Amazon Japan, and with a Korean director. Um, Janejan, I'm sure some of you know that was became famous on Netflix. with Kareena Kapoor, which was also a adaptation of a novel from Japan that we adapted. Uh, Blind is a Korean movie that we did a remake in India. Sakini Dakini as well. Netrikan, yeah, these are all remakes that we did in India based on Korean contents, Korean movies. Some of the projects like The Young Messiah, Dino Time, these are English language projects that we have produced from, while I was at CJ Entertainment. We'll talk about that later, but what's notable was one of them was Snowpiercer, as some of you may know, which was Bong Joon-ho's film with Chris Evans and Song Kang-ho, which was an English language film for the first time for Bong Joon-ho. So yes, these are the types of projects that I have been doing. So that I hope that sort of tells you the characteristic of my career. So today, we want to talk about uh, how the Korean contents build this brand power. I'll introduce you what we do at Cross Pictures as Korean content powerhouse, and we'll look into some of the cases of the building a brand identity, as well as we'll talk about some of the fandom, how the fandom works in the market, and some of the practical insights, for those of you who are at the stage of becoming young entrepreneurs. And if we have time, I'll also show you, how this film and series producing is working in a more professional manner, and then we will get into the Q&A. Okay, so Cross Pictures, yes, as briefly introduced, it's been more than 20 years, and we started in LA, and then we moved to Korea. So yes, our main business is Korea, and then we also formed a Cross Pictures India in 2015. So it has been 10th year after we opened our branch office in India. Um, so what we do is we normally, yes, we produce K contents, Korean dramas, Korean films, but we rarely do original, meaning we acquire IPs like webtoons, like web novel or novel, so that we minimize the risk. Because original story versus whatever worked in the first market, such as, for example, these types of series that we have produced, Cheese in the Trap, The Sound of Your Heart, Business Proposal. They're all famous webtoons that have already worked in its own initial market. So once it works in initial market, it has less risk than the original story to invest a lot of money to produce and bring it to the market. So that's kind of the concept that Cross had in the beginning days. So on top of that, when we try to pick the projects, we always look into high concept narratives because we believe in the whole worldwide market. And also, sometimes we pinpoint the target, market. For example, when we produce something in India, we try to focus on localizing it well to reach the local audience. But for making English language projects, for example, then we try to reach the worldwide audience. So we have different methods of reaching to the market, but always we try to come up with the high concept narratives. We have multilingual team, of course, because we're dealing with different markets, including Japan, India, China. So we have multi-language teams. I mean, from different backgrounds and different languages. And also in India, just because there are so many languages, many of you know, we have Hindi team, we have Tamil team, we have Telugu team. So yes, the diverse background is very important to team up for us to provide contents for global audience. So for the past 3 years, one of the successful uh, series we've done was, of course, Business Proposal. And Roppongi Class is interestingly a remake of a Korean series, which is called Itaewon Class. I'm sure some of you guys know. So Knuckle Girl was, like I said, it was first adaptation of a Korean webtoon in Japan. And Janejan was a adaptation of a Japanese novel that became a huge hit in Indian market. So these are pretty much what we're doing. So yes, there have been some films that we produced. We've also produced the same movie in China based on the same Japanese novel from Keigo Higashino. So it's a Chinese version of Janejan. Uh, Teen was a remake of a Korean movie. 100 Days of Sunshine was a remake of a Korean movie in Vietnam. So we also did a couple of remakes in Vietnam. And Oh Baby was a South Indian hit. Is based on Korean film Miss Granny. So Miss Granny was a very powerful IP, and that has been remade in 13 different countries. And India was one of them. And Netrikan was a Tamil movie that we produced based on a Korean movie. Sakini Dakini Blind, all Korean movie remakes. Jane Jane is mentioned, it was a huge success. Knuckle Girl was also a success based on a Korean webtoon in Japan. Some of the projects that we're developing right now, Korean movie in India. Miss Granny, we're doing a Hindi version right now. So that's another aspect that I wanted to emphasize. So, for example, in a country like India, right? When you produce films or series, you can do different version of it because there are different languages, different continent. So, for example, what you can make a movie in Telugu market in Telugu language with Telugu talents. You can also do another remake in Hindi market with Hindi talents and in Hindi language. So that's one of the uniquenesses of Indian business because it has multi languages, unlike China. Yes, series like I said, we've been adapting from webtoons, successful webtoons, and so we became sort of the at this stage, K drama powerhouse. Uh, the breakthrough was a business proposal because it became really famous, uh, and with the number one rated in Korea and top 10 in on Netflix in 33 countries. Again, my life was also a success. Most recent project was Miss Incognito, which was also a very uh, big hit. So right now, our next step for the global team is okay. How do we bring this series that we have produced to different countries? So right now we're working on Indian version. We're working on a Japanese version. So yeah, various territories. We're preparing for remake of uh, uh, such a title. So this tells us how once you create something that is good, that is valuable, you can always turn that into and localize it in other countries, other market. This doesn't only apply to contents. Whatever you guys are doing, whatever you guys are preparing, uh, these days you're dealing with the whole world because everything is open, everything is connected. So once you have a good product, you always have to simultaneously think about how you can bring this to other territories at the same time. Of course, it's not easy, but once you have that sort of concept, you're starting with the whole, world as your market, is what I'm trying to say. As I said, we're so overnight. This webtoon is in production right now. Another webtoon is in production in Korea as a Korean series right now, which is called Let's Go to Work Tomorrow by we're working with TVN. Some of these we're developing. Another Korean series we're developing, another Indian remake of a Korean series that we have produced is a business proposal, Indian version we're developing. Uh, and one of the big ticket item is the Galileo series, the whole novel, a whole series of novel that is written by Keigo Higashino. Keigo Higashino is considered as like a Stephen King of Japan. So he's written a lot of thrillers that are very famous. So one of them was the Devotion of Suspect X, which we turned into Chinese movie and a Indian movie. So this whole franchise we're also developing as a series in the US with a big studio. So this is another chunk of business that we're doing right now. So yes, let's look at the uh, how do how Korean contents have developed the distinct brand identity. So for example, let's talk about BTS. So as we all know, the we're going to talk about the love yourself narrative as a brand universe. Uh, Through this, we can see how K Contents was able to have a success case with message strategy. Means, for example, BTS entered a highly competitive K-pop market and aim for global expansion. Instead of focusing on perfection, fame, or luxury, they introduced a core question. Before success, do you truly love yourself? So this is a question that they threw out to the audience. And the core idea was love yourself became not just lyrics, but a brand philosophy. It addressed universal youth issues such as anxiety, pressure, self-doubt, fear of failure, which is common across Korea, India, and Indonesia. So uh, the key insight is, the story shifted from who BTS are from who you are. So you have to, when you deal with your market, when you deal with your audience or customers, nowadays, who I am, who or who what it is that we're selling is not important. We have to let the audience or customer know, identify themselves first. So this is the strategy that BTS took. Um, for example, personal to universal. So BTS shared real, vulnerable personal experiences. These emotions resonated with young people across cultures. Content felt authentic, not manufactured, because they relate to them. So we need to keep letting the customers relate to themselves for whatever service we provide or whatever products we provide. Campaign, not a song. Love Yourself was a long-term narrative, very smartly, strategized and prepared. Not a one-off hit. There's trilogy album. They prepared, they came up with lyrics, visuals, concerts, interviews, everything related. Um, this is how similar to how startups build a mission-driven brand. Also, social value, which is very important. UN speech, as you all know, promoted self-respect and mental well-being throughout whatever activities that they've been doing on the YouTube and everything. Avoidance of political or religious conflict enabled global acceptance. So what are the lessons that we can take from here? Start with why, not just what. We're not bringing, just a product. BTS defined why they exist before what they produce. Startups that scale globally are driven by purpose, not features. Local stories can go global is also one thing. Korean news story became a global movement. The more personal the story is, the more universal its impact. Consistency, repeating the same core message over time, create credibility, over different platforms, and strong brands are built through long-term storytelling. So time matters. So the key takeaway is, BTS Love Yourself is not just a K-pop success, but a global branding case where authenticity became strategy. Let's look at Parasite. I'm sure many of you know the Korean movie Parasite, Oscar and everything. So directed by Bong Joon-ho, who I work with on Snowpiercer. So yeah, this is very deeply rooted in Korean society. The film portrays two families, as you know, divided by class, wealth, and opportunity. Despite its local setting, Parasite achieved unprecedented global success, as you all know. And a Korean director to win four Academy Awards became a huge news, and this just brought the value of the movie itself to an unprecedented level. And this also brought the whole Korean contest to a different level. So the core question is, what happens when survival itself becomes a moral choice? It's a very smart question that Bong Joon-ho threw, out there. Parasite does not necessarily explain Korea. It exposes a human condition that exists everywhere. So it looks like a very local movie, but it's a very universal topic that they are bringing to the table. Class conflict is a universal theme, of course. Poverty, inequality, social mobility are global experiences. The film avoids cultural explanation, like I said. It only focuses on emotions, consequences. Viewers recognize the story without needing cultural translation. So nowadays, after the emergence of OTT platforms like Netflix, Amazon, everybody sees everything, everybody watches everything. So don't worry about explaining the cultural background or languages. Now they're used to it. Get right into the topic. So what do you want to tell? And what's the concept? And what's the theme? Get right into it. Genre blending, of course, because Parasite is one of the best examples of comedy becoming thriller, becoming drama, and then almost a horror. So genre familiarity sometimes lowers the barrier for international audiences. So emotional engagement comes first. Interpretation comes later. There's no hero, no villains. Every character is understandable. None are idealized. Moral ambiguity, of course, allows audiences to project their own values. So audiences can relate to this. The conflict feels systemic and not personal. Specificity creates universality. I keep saying, don't worry about how universal my service can be, how universal my product can be. Everything is unique as long as you're focusing on the local uniqueness of it. So more detailed and real the word you're trying to describe, the more audiences relate. Authentic local stories can travel further than generate global ones. Even myself experienced through my entire career. In my early days, as you have seen some of the projects that I've done, making everything in English was very important because we have to deal with the US market, which is the biggest market. You have to open up the North American market in order to go to all the global markets. There was a traditional way of filmmaking and distribution. So many people were focusing on contents that are produced in English languages. Sometimes I had to make Korean actors speak English languages to produce English language projects for American market. But not anymore because after emergence of OTT platforms, everything opened and they can see everything with subtitles and they're more open to different types of cultures. So barrier is gone. So there are even in America, people were very reluctant to read the subtitles, but now they have to because they have to watch OTT contents. So yes, going back to the topic, Parasite never teaches its audience. Let viewers feel first, think later. Successful brands and products work the same way. Let them feel first and then think later. Try not to teach them, to try not to tell them this is good, how good this is. Let them feel it, let them become familiar with it. The film avoids clear answers or moral lectures. Open-ended storytelling increases engagement and discussion. So the key takeaway here is Parasite proves that global success does not come from being universal, as I repeatedly say, but from being deeply honest about the local and human. It eventually makes it more universal. Uh, Through some of the projects that I've done, let me explain to you how does this OSMU, one source multi-use, or OSMT works. So for example, there's original script, there's remake, there's adaptation from literary materials that I have introduced you. So, for example, the Galileo series, from the famous Japanese writer, there was a very expensive IP, but we have acquired it because we saw the market. So once you invest in a valuable IP, then you're able to monetize it in various types of manner. So that was one of the success of acquiring something like Galileo series, which is a power IP. Sometimes you need money for that, but yes, you're always dealing with investors. Uh, there's inbound concept, outbound concept, one territory to another, one source multi-territory. For example, the wedding invitation that I produced for Chinese market, which became a huge hit. This was a remake of a fairly done Korean movie. So we thought this tearjerker, uh, romance and a little bit of comedy, which worked in Korea in 90s, uh, could work at one point in China, which was already, I think, in 2000s. So we targeted specifically China for that, and then we turned that into a Chinese movie, which became a success. So that's sort of like a outbound concept. We bring something from our own country to another country as a localized product. One territory to another. For example, we took a Japanese novel to India, became a Janechan, successful movie. So that's one territory to another. You find something from one place that you feel that it's going to work in a different place. It doesn't have to be your own country. So don't get stuck into your own country. Always try to be crossing borders like CrossFitters, right? So once there's multi-territory, of course, something is done. For example, I produced a movie with famous actress Tang Wei, who is from China, and Hyun Bin from Korea. So one Korean talent, one Chinese talent. We made an English movie, so it worked in English, U.S. market, but it also worked in Korean market because of Hyunbin, and it also worked in Chinese market because of Kang Wei. So this is sort of a one source multi-territory kind of a concept. Global project, as I mentioned, a strong IP you bring and you try to reach global market. But used to be, creating something in English with American talents. Snowpiercer was one of them. So CJ had an ambition to invest a lot of money by Bong Joon-ho making a Hollywood movie. Thankfully, we didn't lose money, but it wasn't a huge success. It was a success, nominal success, but I think it was a pretty good attempt. Um, yeah, some of the other projects that I've done in the same way, make something in English and then bring it to US market, open up the whole market. So that's a global concept. Now, there's an inner competition right now because after Parasite and Squid Game, the make creating something very local now also opens up the whole market. We don't have to, try to produce something in English, something universal. Uh, Whatever great content you produce becomes universal because of the platform business out there. So something, it's one of the takeaways that we can think about. So as I explained, yeah, these projects were all based on different IPs and different countries. Yeah, that's the concept of the one source multi-use. Okay, now let's get into the next phase, which is about the audience, the customers, the fandom. So why we try to do franchise, why we try to do series-based content, the Korean contents, because you want repeat engagement. Franchise and series-based content is designed for long-term audience return. Success is measured not only by one-time consumption, but by retention, anticipation, cultural continuity. Now, this becomes more valid after the Netflix and Amazon came in because it's all about going back to the platform and the customer loyalty. So in the streaming era, value is created through repetition, not completion. And the binge watching, right? We're saying. So the examples are the Roundup, the Korean action film franchise. As you guys know, Ma Dong-seok, Squid Game, of course, Hellbound. So it's not a single hit, but it evolves to a sustained ecosystem. For example, so audiences return to known characters, recognizable rules. Each installment introduces new stakes, not new exploration. Ma Dong-seok is icon of the Roundup series, so they keep coming back to the Roundup series. Different antagonists, escalating threats, predictable pleasure with renowned tension, but you always want to watch Ma Dong-seok. Open narrative architecture is also important. Stories are built to expand, not conclude. It has to keep expanding. Unresolved questions encourage continuation. Uh, Squid Game, for example, season one answers the game, and um, not the system. Sorry. Okay. Um, Sorry about that. Um, Viewers are invested in what remains hidden. Looking at the Hellbound, so world building over closure. So strong franchises prioritize rules of the world, moral systems, power structures. So Hellbound focuses on shifts from individual to society. The world becomes the main character. So um, Yeah, so that I think we looked into how the Korean contents we're building the audience with franchise and series based content. Strategic lessons for creators and platforms. It's designed for return, not surprise. Characters are IP anchors. Uh, so sequels, spin-offs, cross-format expansion is all they're doing right now. Whoever have the studios and production companies, they all try to build franchise because franchise is the money-making business. Season one, film one. Um, Audience feedback shapes future installments. Longevity comes iteration, not perfection. So the takeaway is franchise succeed because they turn content into a habit, not a moment. Okay, so let's look at some of the practical insights for for all of us young entrepreneurs. So the core question is how did Korean content creates scale globally without Hollywood level budgets? Um, K content succeeds by maximizing one strong idea, one of the characteristics of K contents. Designing for expansion, not perfection. Building audiences before heavy investment. Limited capital doesn't necessarily mean limited scale. The strategy replaces budget. So successful Korean contents were not necessarily expensive contents. Of course, expanding one idea across formats, platforms, markets. OSMU we talked about. Series to clips, music, IP, merchandise events. BTS, music, web content, documentary, fan platforms. Webtoons, as I've shown you, Webtoon returning to drama, film, games sometimes. So one strong core asset is what you want to start with. You really want to start with something strong so that you know it travels over borders, it travels over market is what the concept is. Whereas, so you have to keep asking yourself, where else can this idea live at low cost? For example, let's say we have we have some idea that we want to, make as a Korean drama, K-drama, but it becomes so expensive. So instead, we want to bring that into, how about India? This idea will work well in India. But in India, if you go to a South market and turn it into a South, a Tamil cities, it can be less expensive. But still, we can utilize this IP. So that kind of an idea uh, comes from keep questioning yourself, where else can this idea live at low cost? Local authenticity, global structure. So local details make content real. No matter how many times I say it, but yes, there has to be universal emotions underneath it. So that's how we call it local, you know, uh, local global, local universal nowadays. Um, for example, Parasite, yes, Korean class system, but universal inequality narrative. Look at Squid Game, Korean childhood games, but global survivor competition logic. So these things don't look like it goes well with each other, but that's how, the success, became a success. Language, authenticity is important. Don't worry about it. You don't, it goes to another market, it still travels as long as it's authentic. Culture contact, culture is texture. Uh, Culture texture is important because nowadays they don't want something universalized. Means they want local authenticity because they are used to it now. They want something Korean, they want something Indian, they want something, Indonesian. So, but don't forget, you need to standardize it. What is the format you need, standard, length, genre, logic? This applies to all businesses. What is the standard you have to keep, but being unique in terms of logo. So the rule is be culturally specific, but structurally universal. Let's look at marketing. So what is the low budget digital marketing approach? You know, uh, we can we can take from the Korean content. So fans are built through behind the scenes content, character intimacy, consistency, not polish. So and what happens with the BTS marketing. Low cost channels, they are there always. YouTube, Shorts, TikTok, Instagram Reels. Nowadays, even the movie studios, uh, they don't use they don't spend as much money in marketing as before because they all know that these small marketing works, digital marketing works. So they focus on YouTube Shorts, TikTok, Instagram, of course, um, the X. Yeah, they became such a huge sources of marketing instead of paying TV station for ads, newspapers papers for ads. So these became a very traditional method. Founder playbook. So document. You don't have to advertise. Document it. Turn process into content. Anything content. So there's something called moving poster in India. So even it's just the one picture, we you give a slight move on it, and then you put it on the on the social media, becomes a interesting poster. So casting clips, rehearsal moments, creator commentary, bring in the influencers into the marketing, all about repetition. So the takeaways, from K content, one idea, many lives, uh, OSMU, we talked about. Just don't chase many ideas. Try to get the right one and extend one. Local truth, very important, but global logic. Authenticity is your differentiation, but logic has to be global. The theme has to be universal. Platforms are very important. Even yeah, on the content side, the platform is everything right now because platform rules the whole market. But even in other commerce areas, these online platforms are ruling the whole market, so you cannot avoid them. So algorithms are there. Um, and then remember characters. Characters create loyalty. So people follow people, not products. So anything, you want to relate to people, relate to existing people. Don't just try to show products. Okay, so this wraps up the topics about how K Contents built its brand and everything. Let me quickly show you how my business done so that you can get some insights from it. So how do we develop film series on our end? So when you develop a film or series, it becomes important who's going to pay for the development, right? So who's going to invest in development? Uh, Usually the studio invest platforms. You attract them with a nice proposal, with a story, and then you show it to them. Then they trigger the development funding is the start of the whole development. Um, so in this business, one strong project is far better than carrying several mediocre projects. So I think this applies to every business. Something that um, um, something that you really trust, you really believe in. Just try not to create too many uh, products or services or ideas, because at the end of the day, they will look at you. Do you really have faith in your product, in your service? It's very important for people who have money, uh, more than the product itself. So that's why you don't want to carry around too many different ideas. Um, yes, in our business, there's studio financing model. Of course, it means the studio pays everything and you deliver that. Platforms also. There's independent financing model, whereas you bring in investors and you make it and then you sell it. So by using, banking system and all kinds of different, business methods. So either you find a platform and you serve it, you make it and you serve it, or you make it on your own with investors and then sell it. Usually, making it your own and selling it is a better bet because you get to own the IP, you get to own the product. But if you have the studio or platform to pay for it, then you become like a service provider. So either way is business, but it's always better to own the idea, own the IP. Yeah, let's skip that. So when it comes to film or series, there's always domestic distribution, there's international distribution, there's North American distribution when it becomes an English language projects or big projects. So yeah, this is all about monetizing. Nowadays, because of OTT platforms like Netflix or Amazon, if you give it to them, then that's it. They're just do everything. So you don't have to worry about domestic, international, or even North America, which means your work gets reduced, but at the same time, your pie gets reduced. So yeah, for example, this is a movie that we did based on a Korean movie, which is Miss Granny in Telugu market. So Oh Baby with Samantha in India. We produced a Telugu version of a Korean remake. So on the left side, it tells you how much you spend on production, the budget, publicity, all the cost. And there's, of course, commissions for distribution and interest for capital. And on the right side, you can see, from theatrical rights, like, money you make from theaters, and then overseas, and then audio rights, satellite. So this is a very traditional model, but nowadays you can still do that, but sometimes you just sell it to the platform, that's it. So these are the traditional model of distribution concept. Okay. So far, that is what I have prepared. Now, since we have some time, I'd like to show you uh, about the project that I'm doing right now as we speak. So, just a little bit of a deep dive into it. So this webtoon that we acquired 10 years ago. So we acquired this 10 years ago, which is called We're Sober or Not in Korea. And first we wanted to make a Korean series, but somehow the development just took too long. So about 6 years ago, we decided to make a Indian series based on that. So we started to develop it as an Indian series. Uh, First, we started with the Hindi market, but as in an occasion, we happened to meet some people over in the South Market, and we ended up with a platform called Hotstar, formerly called Hotstar, but nowadays called Geo Hotstar. So Geo Hotstar, for example, is the one of the is the biggest media company platform in India. So yeah, these are the webtoon, and yes, we have to localize it, right? So we've been localizing it with the Indian log line, uh, and Indian stories, and then we cast Indian actors. Tech in director is very important in our business. So Madhumita is a very successful director who is also from Chennai, but she also makes Hindi films as well. The cinematographer, a director. So with these staffs, we formed a team to create Indian uh, series, and it eventually evolved to something like this. Um, so yeah, this is a real house that we're shooting, and this is the color palette, how the location looks, um, and let me just try to get to, yeah, so these are the concepts, the look of, these are all preparation where the story is happening, and how the set looks like, and the locations we're shooting, because there's temple that the family goes and everything. There's college, because this is about the old couple becoming young, turning young. So they live again as young couple. There's courts, uh, there's set building. So we do a miniature before we do the set building. Uh, Now the cast, Jayaprakash, Jayasudha, who is very famous in Telugu market, Ramzan, Gauri, uh, and this is the concept of the set building, the designs. What we also do is we put them in the costume, and then we take pictures before we start shooting. So we see how they look in the costume. So the characters, the old couples before they turn young, and the young couple after they turn young. So they're supposed to be like, 20s version 20s version and 60s version. So they have to kind of look alike, right? Because they turn young from when they're 60s. So this is villain character. So we portray them together. Who she's very jealous and everything. As a family, how do they look? Because it's also a family story. And there's Guruji, who's doing all the magics because, people turn young, right? And, how the VFX works and how the song, because in India, song is very important. So, how the tune works and the schedule and everything. So, yes, uh, this is, so after that, so after 6 years of preparation, development, scripts, and all of that, localization, we're finally shooting the series here in Chennai. So it's a lot of time that it takes. So basically, yeah, no business is easy, but content creation is also there's a heavy work involved, which is of course fun, but not always fun because you always have to worry about money and um, schedule and everything. There's always problems because there are hundreds of people working, right? And artists, actors, and egos, and all of that. But it's part of the business. So yes, I think that will be it for what I have prepared. And I think yeah, we can go into Q&A. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Stevens, for such amazing session. I'm sure everyone here is already excited to ask questions, right? Before that, please big applause for Mr. Steven. Guys, if you like to ask a question, please scan the QR code. Mr. Stephen will answer them one by one. So let's begin with the first questions. All right, is there anyone who wants to ask? All right, so we can wait for a bit, maybe. Okay, guys, please write your questions by scan the QR code.
Some Q&A, some question is on the Zoom chat. Please check
Oh,
the
okay.
Zoom.
Oh, all right, okay. All right, for first question is, how do you see the trend of Chinese mini
Mm.
dramas which creates repetition through short form content? Do you think users' behavior shifting into that direction? With AI generate content is on the rise, how do you see IP rights management, attribution, and compensation for AI assist work in the future?
Okay. So yes, let's talk about the shorts for a second. So yes, shorts are the mini dramas, usually 60 seconds, sometimes 2 minutes. Yes, it's becoming hugely popular in the market. However, um, yes, it does create repetition, and they keep coming back to it. The problem is, as a maker, as a producer, uh, the budget is very, very small. So it's a volume business. You have to be able to produce this with a very low budget. So unless you have a really good network with a good platform, or you have to keep producing, uh, uh, major amount of the contents, unless you have a system that you're able to keep producing, the shorts. Yes, there is a business, but for us, like, who deal with the longer contents, uh, it's very challenging for us because it is a very different business model. So there are people who are doing shorts, and there are people who are being successful. Yes, it's becoming bigger and bigger. However, what we have to be careful is the content itself becomes sometimes too violent or too, uh, uh, I, I would just call R-rated. So the contents are uh, not as good as other forms of longer forms of contents. But yeah, like I said, business is business, and yes, there is a growing market.
Thank you, Mr. Steven, for the answer. So the next question is, do you
Oh,
have
oh, by
any?
the way,
Yeah.
the question was, yeah, behavior shifting into that direction. I think we all noticed that, we can't get away with watching shorts, right? Once you start, uh, scrabbling your phone, even on Facebook, whatever, everything is now shorts. So I think it's vulnerable. And it's yeah, it's really connected. Yes.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Steven. So can we continue to the next
Mm,
questions?
Sure.
So do you
So
have
AI
any,
generated. Mm.
yeah, do you have any secret structure to create IP project proposal to pass pitch to the studio or industry standard?
Okay. Can I read this somehow? Do you have any secret structure to create IP project proposal to pass pitch? Well, everyone has its own method. I don't think there is any secret. But at the same time, there's no like standard form. But I think the important thing is when you pitch something, uh, because they see this every day. They see the pitch. They hear the pitch. They see the deck every day, many decks. So you have to, of course, you have to make it outstanding. It has to be eye-catching. But strictly in business, uh, yeah, if it's a good story, and if it's a good product, they will notice anyway. So yes, it is very important to create some, a pitch deck or proposal that looks attractive. There's no question about it. But what's in there is more important. What the story is, what the product is, more important.
Thank you, Mr. Stephen. I think we missed the second question, Mr. Would you like to answer first
Which one?
with
The I
AI generate one?
Okay, so with AI generated content is on the rise, how do we see IP rights management, attribution, and conversations for AI assisted? Okay, so yes, I whatever I say now is not going to be valid tomorrow regarding the AI because it's just changing too fast. But at least right now, for example, we're making the shows for GeoHostar, which is a big organization. So they what they do is they basically prohibit from us providing any AI-based contents. They don't like it because they don't want to get into the nitty-gritty of trouble, legal trouble. So whatever service, whatever product that we make, we cannot use AI. So that's kind of what's happening now. But yes, AI contents are being produced here and there all the time. So there's this talking, discussion about the legal IP and monetizing and all of that. But at least for the time being, right now, studios are avoiding it. And they're not trying to let you monetize out of the AI based content. Only except for, you yourself can put anything out there, right? YouTube or anything. And if there's a way you can monetize uh, on the AI-based content, there may be. But for now, as far as I know, you cannot copyright it, which means you cannot license it. So whatever they're doing on the YouTube is probably just uh, generating income out of the time that they put out on the YouTube.
All right, thank you, Mr. Can we move to the next question, Mr.?
Sure.
Yes. Would you mind sharing your creative process in developing ideas or high concept narratives that you've worked on so far?
Sure. So yes, the creative process is simple. So for example, there's a phase called development. There's phase called packaging. There's phase called production and post-production and distribution. So for any content, development is very important. And when you say development, okay, so how to create the script, whether it's film or series, how to how do you create a script? So you need good writers. You have an idea or you have an IP. So you want to adapt it into a script. So that's when you need a good writer who can do this adaptation. And you need a director because director is gonna, direct it. So getting the director and writer involved is the first stage. And then you develop it, a concept of it. Sometimes we call it a Bible. So in the series business, we call it a Bible. We make a Bible. So it's like a story synopsis, one episode worth of a script. So all the creative material is there, and then you bring that to a studio. And you tell them, okay, this is the idea. We want to create 8 episodes of 30-minute dramas, and we want to develop this. Then, if they take it, then they pay you the development funding. So they pay you the development funding to do all of these works to create the scripts. Once you have the scripts, there is something called a process of green lighting. So once they are happy with the script, and this whole process usually takes a couple of years easily. So after that, they green light the show, then it goes into a packaging stage. So that means they decide to invest in your show to produce it. So then you're into a phase of casting and getting all the crews together, preparation of the shoot and everything. You do a contract with the studio, production contract, and they pay, the budget, how much the budget will be and everything. And then you go into production with the funding that they will give you. And once the production is done, you do a post-production stage, and then after that, you deliver the show to them. That's the end of the business.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Stephen, for the answer. So the next question is, do you have any tips for writing appealing stories or narratives when creating content, perhaps a specific framework you usually use?
Uh, yeah, if I have something like that, I would have, I would have been producing way more contents than I did. But yes, there are some, specific frameworks because yeah, when you go to film school, right, they teach you how to write the stories. There's always like first act, second act, these structure of that normally works for the content. Uh, Importantly, so who is this main character? That's very important. So who is the main character? What his conflict is? What is what's the goal for this character? It all evolves around this main character. So main character is very, very important. And once you have the main character, you have the sub characters and there are sub narratives. So usually when you have a story, going with the normal, structure and the characters is the first thing to do. And then after you build the characters, then the, story bits and pieces will come in. So after that, you create something called a beat sheet, which is story bits you create. And then after that you start writing the script. So when it comes to writing appealing stories, is it something that you can tell in one line? So because it cannot be complicated. So which is why we call the log line. So logline has to be very simple. It has to tell you, what happens to this person. So what's the result? So this one line has to be the log line has to be very, very clear. And after that, the characters have to be very distinctive. So those are the main focus that you need to invest in the beginning of the stage, because once you create all of these, then you're slowly losing your control, because all the characters that you create starts to make own stories, and it's going to evolve. It's going to keep evolving. So in the beginning, what is the story about? What is the target market? Who are we targeting? Early 20s male or early 20s female? What is the genre? Genre has to be very clear. What is this one storyline? Who is the character? These things that you have to define very clearly in order to go to the next step.
All right, thank you, Mr. Stephen, for the answer. So the next question is short attention span. With short attention span shaped by short form platforms such as TikTok and Reels, how is this changing pacing, hooks, and narrative structure in drama series storytelling?
It's getting shorter and shorter. Yes, because people are used to watching, shorter contents. So for example, let's talk about India. JioHotstar, they used to produce long formats, means 30, 40 minutes, even 60 minutes of it, per episode. Uh, but after their merger, after they, became the new company, they most of their markets they got rid of this, and then they came up with something called long, 50 episoders, 100 episoders, shorter minutes, 20 minutes, 10 minutes. So this is what's happening in the market. Obviously, contents are getting shorter and shorter. Uh, so no more 60 minutes, not even 40 minutes, 30 minutes. Now 20 minutes they're doing mostly. So yes, that is affecting the market.
Mr. Stephen, so for the next question, how AI has helped you in your business as it is evolving rapidly?
I think this depends on, who you are. Yes, there are some producers who are using AI a lot more than I do, but for us, I think we use AI not in production, not in the contents, but in the pre-production itself, because AI can be helpful in preparations, because for example, there are assistant directors, 4 or 5 assistant directors have different types of roles. They do the breakdown, script breakdown. They do all kinds of paperworks. Now with the AI, what they do can be done by AI. So that reduces the amount of work that the assistant directors have to do. Means we can save money from their labor and time. Uh, and yeah, most of the researches that they have to do, in art department or different departments, it's affecting. So at the end of the day, it's shortening the time that we spend, and which means the labor of preparation, and it helps reduce the budget and time.
Thank you, Mr. Stephen. So the next question is, would you share your story on your creative journey, the ups and downs, especially what need to be avoided or tips need to be applied?
Hmm. Yes, there are, I mean, out of the contents that I've been producing, yes, there were successes, there were failures. But something I learned is when you are not because sometimes you have to produce content just because it 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 it's already triggered for different reasons. For example, when you work for a studio, there's top-down projects always. The big the owner, the executives like the idea, so they wanted to do that. It becomes a top-down project. Uh, I don't have a belief in that project, but we have to do it because I'm an employee. So uh, some of the times that I had to handle those top-down projects, when I don't have my hearts in the project, at the end of the day, no matter how much you try, no matter how much effort you put in, uh, at the end of the day, it doesn't become a success. So I think when the lesson I learned over the last 25 years is that when you want to start something, you have, you just don't start because you started, or just don't start because of the relationship. Don't start because somebody, you know well, brought this, and of friends that you wanted to work with, want to do this. For all the good reasons, it just never pays off. The only reason that you want to start a project has to be, okay, this is going to be a hit. Everyone will like it. This is a good story, and you have good feedback about the story. That's how you need to, influence yourself to start a project. Because once you start a project, it can become a 5-year journey, easily. It could be 10-year journey. So at the end of the day, what you start with is very important. What you trigger, you have to have a full faith in it. You have to get a lot of opinion from everybody. Don't start it easy. Start it really hard is something I learned.
Thank you, Mr. Stephen, for the answer. So next question is, how do you know your market? What are the things that you consider before deciding?
This needs a lot of research and a lot of insights, and you have to keep constantly watching the target market. For example, okay, you're making content for India. You have to, it's a very unique market, different languages, different, continent, uh, uh, working differently. So, for example, a romance works well this time in Hindi market doesn't necessarily mean that it's gonna, work in Malayalam market or Tamil market. So, because when something hits, then people follow, then you're late. You have to constantly read the market where this is going. So it takes a lot of effort of work. So how do I know my market? You have to study. Uh, there's nothing can beat the time that you put in, the effort you put in to read what's going to happen in the next 3-4 years in the market that you're focusing on, and then from your sources of IPs, sources of the story, you look into it, and then you pick the best that you think is going to work, and then you bring it to it, and then you start the project.
Thank you, Mr. Stephen. So the next question is, how you ensure the budget is enough for production, but also good for partners to consider. Should we pitch the whole series plan at once or season based? And how consider the marketing strategy as well to be well executed in the targeted market?
Okay. When you pitch something, it's always better to pitch the whole idea. So if you're thinking it as a season-based content, then you should bring that as a season-based content. Because for studios, they want to look at everything. And usually they also think about, how to monetize that, even after creating one content. So they always think about, subsequent the seasons, prequel, sequel, and everything. It's kind of automatic. So uh, it doesn't necessarily work as if you bring something and then let them buy in, and then you bring something later. It's rather it's rather much better to bring in the whole idea to them so that you become like a partner. And that way they also invite you over to the different stages of the monetizing. Otherwise, they'll just take the idea and they'll do it, and then they'll do the rest of the business without you. So it's always good to go with the full idea. How consider the marketing strategy there is to be well executed in the targeted market? Okay, I'm not clearly understanding this question. The marketing strategy well executed in the target market. So, uh, yes, like I said, the targeted market, I'm not a local person, right? Like I am Korean. So I can't be the one who understands the target market. So I always rely on partners. So we have partners, we have employees. The marketing strategies, I rely on the local people, the local partners. How well it's executed in the target market. I have to rely on them. But making the content, producing the content, yes, that's where you bring in your expertise. But as far as the marketing is concerned, I think you get to rely much more on the local side, on the partner side of the target market. Hope that answers your question.
Such a really hard questions. Our next question is a message for young generation who just start the business. What is the most important thing to become successful?
Okay. The short version is, what is your story? Before you bring a product, before you bring a service, you need to have your own story, because nowadays it's all about story. Everything is about story. Even a simple product has a story. Otherwise, it's very difficult to sell. So, what is your story that you want to bring in this product, in this service? What is the unique story you want to bring? In order to do that, you have to know yourself, in more in depth. Okay, how you grew up, what is your cultural background, what is your interest, because it's all about you who will s- keep creating the story of whatever a service or product that you're making. Because people are curious about, you know, other people. People are curious about the story. They're not just buying things because it looks beautiful or it's functional. Everything comes with a story. If there's a story involved, they will pay more money because they feel more value in it. So how best you can tell yourself as a story is something that you want to start, and then you can think about what I can bring to the market.
Thank you, Mr. Stephen, for the warmful message to everyone. So next questions is how do you make decision which content to be localized in the new market and which content to keep its original form?
Uh, I think it's not like either or. So the first yeah the first because for our business the first market is Korea usually. So we look at everything in terms, in the perspective of Korean market. So but not every project does well, or there are always uh, the market trend that changes. So let's say there is an IP or story that you want to tell in your own market, in your first market, but right now is not the time. Then or uh, just because you're dealing with different markets, right? This unique story seems to work in another market. So instead of Korea, I think this is going to work better in India. So that's what happened to the show that I'm producing right now, We're Sober or Not. It didn't necessarily work in Korea as much as we believed in it, but everyone thought that just because of the family stories and all the, magic uh, concept and everything, we all felt that it may work in India better. So we brought that to India, and then we localized it. So I think you're not able to identify it by looking at the IP, but once you believe in the IP, then that's the start of it. And then you try it within your first market, which is for us, Korea. But at the same time, you look at from different angles, whether it may work better in India or it may work better in US, or Vietnam or Japan or China. So that's the kind of angle that we have over all the IPs that we acquire.
All right, thank you